Hi, it's Vicky here and welcome to another art journal layout for the Limor Weber designs. And as you can see, I'm starting out in a new art journal as my last one is finished. So first of all, I've decided to use this pattern paper, which is stripes and in dark blue, and I'm going to cut it out in thin strips of paper. Now, I don't measure at all. Other strips are thin and other are thicker, and also I'm cutting out the paper in vertical as well as horizontal lines. So after I finished off cutting all my strips, I went ahead and used my gel medium. This is gel medium by Faber-Castell. It looks milky and white on the pot, but I just want to note that this is actually transparent. It dries totally transparent, and I'm gluing down using my gel medium all the strips on my layout. I stick all my strips of paper vertically and I make sure that one overlaps the other, and also I make sure that the lines of the pattern paper are not always in the same direction, so some of them are vertical and others are horizontal. Now you can use any pattern paper for your background. I'm trying to create a sky there, so you can use solid ones or other pattern papers that have lots of designs. I decided to use this one, which is rather solid, I would say, with few stripes. Now I went over the strips of paper with my gel medium, and that will make sure that my layout is now non-porous, and I need to have a non-porous surface since I'm going to be using my pit brush markers to create my shading. You'll see what I mean later on. Now I'm using my scissors to cut out whatever sticks out of the paper, since I want to keep my journal neat as possible. And now it's time to use my pit brush markers. These are by Faber-Castell and they are Indian ink. As you can see, I can easily apply ink on top of my pattern paper and just blend it with my fingers. I'm doing that because my pattern paper looked more like a dark purple and I wanted it to be more bluish. So I'm going all over the pattern paper now, adding the shading that I want. And remember that I've used gel medium all over my pattern paper once it was glued down, and that's why I have a non-porous surface. Indian ink has the ability to dry permanent, and that means that once this ink is dry, it will not move whatever I do on top of that. However, since I'm working on a non-porous surface, I have a few seconds to move the ink around and blend it with my fingers before it dries on me. So I've added a bit of black there, just because I want to create a dark sky. You can also keep a baby wipe close by, so you can use it to wipe off areas if you feel that you have overdone it, but remember you need to work fast. And I guess my background is almost ready. Now I'll move on to the other pieces of my layout. This is a red pattern paper that I had in my stash forever. I can't even remember the paper collection. So anyway, I'm using that to create my roof. I always like to create the elements for my layout out of pattern paper and then stick them down. This will create a nice base for my elements, just like this is the base for my red roof, and I also did that with my moon. This is a yellow paper that I had in my stash also forever. I can't even remember which line is this, but since it already has these round circles on it, I'm using that as a pattern and I follow the lines to cut it out. I could also, or if you try to recreate that, you can also use a die to die cut a large circle. Now I also made sure that my moon is quite big, since I want the moon to be the focal point of my layout. Since I'm going to stick them down on my paper, I make sure that I create the fold first and then I'll stick it down. So before I stick everything down, the moon and the roof, I'm using this nice brush, and I'm going to link that in the supplies below. And I'm thinning some gesso with water, so that's gesso by Faber-Castell and water. And now I can just create some splashes here and there. I'll go over the whole background and these will be my stars. So there you go, you have a nice and super easy night sky. If you feel that some of your splashes are too big, you can always wipe them out with a baby wipe. Remember, you are working on a non-porous surface and you have a few seconds before everything is dry. Now I'll go ahead and use my gel medium and stick down the moon as well as the roof on top of my layout. Remember that I already created the fold, so this will help me stick everything down easier. And as I'm doing that, just to let you know that you can always find a list of supplies on my blog as well as on the Limor Weber Designs blog, where I'm guest designing today. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can find both the links to my blog and to Limor Weber Designs blog just below the video in the descriptions area. Now, once everything is sticked down, I make sure that I go over the roof and the moon with gel medium. This will create again the non-porous surface. You know, I love shading with my paintbrush markers, and that's a thing that you should do if you want to create the shading using this technique. Now, also notice that I didn't went over the moon too neatly, so I left areas without gel medium here and there. I am using this tag and a pencil to create a cute little cat. This isn't very difficult to draw, but if you don't feel confident about your drawing skills and you want to recreate this layout, you can always go to online and search for cat outlines, and I'm sure you'll find something appropriate. And before I move on and stick my cat on the roof, I'm going to create my shading on the moon and make it look more realistic. So I'm going all over the moon using this paintbrush marker. The paintbrush marker that I'm using is green gold, and it's actually number 268. And once I'm finished with that, I'll go ahead and use my brown paintbrush marker, which is one of my favorites, and it's actually number 169. Now I'll go all over the moon on the edges and add some shading there. And notice how some areas are getting darker than the rest of the moon. This is because I didn't cover up the whole moon with gel medium, so the Indian ink went directly to the pattern paper. And that's how I actually recreated the real moon, since you know, the moon isn't totally solid yellow, but it rather has random darker areas here and there. Now I'll go ahead and use the same technique on my roof, and just to make it more realistic, I'm using my black marker there. This is one from the Essential Kit, and you can find a link below. As you can see, it writes perfectly on top of gel medium, but you need to make sure that your gel medium is totally dry. And here comes my favorite paintbrush marker again. That's again my brown marker, which is number 169, and it really brings the roof to life. Notice how I add shading to the darker areas, and that's mainly at below the roof tiles. So I'm just drawing lines and then blending them with my finger, and I'll go over again and again until I'm happy with the outcome. I actually don't have 3 hands. My daughter is helping me out today. So to color up my cat, I'm using Liquitex ink, and I'm applying the ink using my brush. I just love how easy it is to apply, and I love that it has that little dropper. And it makes things so easy for me. Now I'm using the color Carbon Black, which is obviously black, and I'm using my gel medium at the back to stick my cat on top of the roof, looking at the moon. And again now I'm using my black marker and just draw the whiskers of the cat. This marker is from Faber-Castell, and it comes in a kit, and there are actually 4 different pens, black pens in the kit that vary from very thin to quite bold tips. And now this is my white pastel pencil, and I'm using that to add some highlights at the edges of my cat. And now all that's left to do is add my quote. Now I get tons of questions about the stamp set that I'm using often to stamp my letters. This is called Happy Letters, and it's a stamp set by Hero Arts, but unfortunately it's quite old, and it's out of stock and discontinued. So I'm not sure if you are able to find the same one. Just to emphasize some of the words from my quote, I went ahead and stamped them using Versamark ink, and then I'll go ahead and emboss them. I'm using the embossing powder by Lindy Stamp Gang, and that's from the Tresic collection, and actually the name of the embossing powder is C'est la vie. I stamped and embossed the word moon as well as the word stars. And as I'm doing that, just to answer another question that I get a lot of people ask me what's the brown surface that I'm working on, and that's actually a craft sheet. It's by Ranger, and you can find the link in the supplies area. It's very easy to wipe off, and it's great to work on this type of surface. Now, as you can see, I have applied my embossing powder, and now I'm ready to heat set it. And for the rest of my quote, I'll use these white alpha stickers, and I'm going to take my time and stick one letter next to the other until I have the whole quote there. Once everything is there, I'm using gel medium, and I'll go all over the stickers just to make sure that they are not going to go anywhere. Although they are self-adhesive, their adhesive wasn't too strong, and I was afraid that they might move. So now I'm sure that they won't go anywhere. And I guess that was the art journal layout for today. I hope you had fun and got inspired. And if you did, don't forget to leave me a comment, as well as give me thumbs up on my YouTube channel. Thank you all for watching.